What's up, guys? This is Boondocks, and I'm here just showing off some of the slight changes that they've made in Skyforge as they're preparing to actually move on to their final release, which I'm definitely looking forward to whenever it's finally done. So for starters, let's check out one of the first things that I kind of enjoyed, and that's this community section. To be fair, right now it's not very in-depth, but you can see that what they're trying to go for. So the forum will be accessible through the game, and FAQs about the different subjects, the adventures that you can go on, so people can pretty much turn this into a Wikipedia. Currently, the only thing that they have is very basic information on the different classes in the game, and they do have all of them, and they also have a talent calculator, which is nice because you're only have X number of talent points and you have to decide which ones you want and so on. And I'm not really sure what the build link's going to be used for, whether or not you can just quick save it later or something like that, but you can actually go through and check out all the different classes right here and the abilities available to them. And that's something that I'm kind of interested in, seeing an in-game sort of directory. In addition, the other big change is to the main leveling up system in the game, the Ascension Atlas. So previously, you would need different sparks of the three types: the Spark of Destruction, Spark of Creation, and the Spark of Balance, or orange, green, blue. And then, after a certain point, you would start collecting Sparks of Progress for your individual classes, and you can use that on pretty much anything on your tree as like a supplementary spark. That's changed up kind of drastically now. In addition, they have rearranged a lot of the trees, so some of the skills you won't unlock until much later on. Not the biggest of deals, but kind of interesting. For instance, the Cryomancer in the previous closed beta was pretty powerful because it unlocked some of its really strong late game skills earlier in the tree. Now you have to progress much further in the game before you get to unlock them. So right now people are kind of anti-Cryomancer just because it takes so long to really do the damages. Personally, I like the Gunner. It's one of my favorite classes because of the transforming weapons. So how did they change that outside of moving the skills? Well, as before, as you level up, you'd have to spend different points. Obviously, the orange ones would take the orange Sparks of Destruction, the green ones would take your green Sparks of Creation, and the blue would be the Sparks of Balance. Now, once you get up to this point, right as you start to really dig into the tree, and as you can see, it goes on for quite a while, but once you get to this point, everything kind of changes up on you. After this point, you can only use your Sparks of Progress, your class-specific sparks. And at the start, they're relatively inexpensive, at 10 for each individual point, 50 for the bigger ones, but as you move along and get further in the tree, you start looking at 250 to pick up Orbital Strike, and you have to pick that up before you can move on to the next branches. So it's definitely going to get a little bit costly. Yeah. Fortunately, you get the Sparks of Progress just from killing enemies and looting their sources, so it's not that big of a deal. But it's a little bit tricky. What do you do with the rest of these points, you might ask? Well, one of two things. You can use them to start progressing other classes, or you can start using them to progress in the Ascension Atlas. Now, the Ascension Atlas is pretty damn huge. I mean, just look at this thing. Yeah. It goes on for quite a while in every direction. Now, the Ascension Atlas serves two major points. One, there are stat increases that affect all your classes, which is pretty nice. As you can see, I've already bought some over in this area, and it's cool because it not only gives you the increase to Prestige to all your classes, but it also increases your stats for all classes. Additionally, this is how you unlock the other classes in the game that aren't the starting ones. For instance, if you want to play as a necromancer, you'd have to work your way over to said necro. Now, this is kind of good and bad. It kind of promotes you to play as one character and work your way towards the other ones you desire. That only becomes an issue if, say, you want to be a warlock, because let's just find the path to the warlock. I have to go through this entire branch all the way back over to there. It will take quite some time. And this is the class that I actually personally enjoy the most. Maybe I could have started at Berserker because I already had that unlocked and worked my way this way. I wasn't really thinking straight. Maybe I'll focus on that next instead of fighting from all the way over here. Now, the other main thing to realize is that cost jumps up incredibly high in the Ascension Atlas. This kind of makes sense though, because your stats are distributed across all classes, not just the one you're playing. And as we can see, normally the prices are, when you're leveling up an individual class, the max I saw I think was like 125, which is still pretty costly. And to be fair, that's kind of where I'm at right now. For instance, 95, 125, not that big of a deal. But as we get closer over to said warlock, let's zoom in over here. 650, 810, 490, 650, 650. As you can see, it gets a lot more costly once you start getting into the other branches. And it's good because it gives you some late game content to work for, but on the flip side, if you want this warlock early, you're going to have to do some grinding to get to it, because then you're going to want to level it up in order to get the gear to make it efficient, and so on and so forth. It's definitely an interesting idea, and it makes the late game and this whole idea of leveling up one character feel much more positive. For instance, if you take Final Fantasy XIV. In Final Fantasy XIV, you're able to level up one character and then switch to a new class and level up that class on the same character. And then later, once you've leveled up all the different classes, you can take cross-class skills. Now, that's kind of similar to what's going on here. For instance, if we come back, I've already unlocked one. Where is it? Right here. As you can see, I've already unlocked it. Talent. Clever Maneuver. Using dash creates a protective barrier that absorbs damage equal to 5% of the character's maximum health for 3 seconds. So now dashing also makes it so I absorb a little bit of damage. So you do get cross-class abilities by unlocking it through this Ascension Atlas. The main difference is, not only do I get abilities, but I also get all these stats. So when it comes time for a real late game, you might already be prepared and good to fight, but there's always more you can be working for. I honestly think, just due to the fact that there's limiting points in this game, it's going to take quite a while to fill this out. For instance, if we come over to, I think it's in character currency, and then I click here, or is it limits? Yes, limits. So Spark of Insight. I can only get another 13,000 for the rest of this week. It resets every Wednesday at 5. So for the rest of the week, I can only get 13,000 more. And when you start thinking about some of those nodes that are costing upwards of 800, well, that means I can only unlock about 15 or 16 of those nodes. So obviously it's going to start taking a while to complete that whole Ascension Atlas. So it makes the game last a little bit longer, and it's going to feel like you're always working towards something on the one character which you can model after yourself. And as far as modeling goes, if you're like me and you try to design a character that looks somewhat like you, I'm not going to say this is exact. Have they given me a little bit more options, I probably would have tried a little bit harder, and I give them a little bit less of a stomach. But we're just going to come back over here to show something else that they've worked on, and the character creation, though it's a little bit different. This is the stylist You can go and change how your character looks if you grow tired of how you were looking before, and so on. So let's talk to her.
So, would you like to change your appearance?
Yes.
Hello. Kindly remember that I will modify your appearance the first time at no charge to you. However, for all future procedures, you...
So outside of it cutting off there at the end, the voice acting has gotten a lot better since the last open beta or closed beta. In addition, their lip movement matches English a lot better. If you don't know, the development team behind the game is actually Russian. So if I were to go back into the menus, maybe you caught it before, but underneath all the class names are like Russian words, and I don't read Russian. It's weird. So yeah, let's agree with her.
Great. Give me 1 sec.
Alright, let's finish. I don't know why it made you hit space again to move on, but here we go. This is pretty much how the start of the game is for the character design. So you can go through and select a base model for your character, whichever you feel is most appropriate, whether it's if you want a female avatar or a male avatar, anything like that. That sounds like someone just jumped right next to me. Let's stick with the male avatar. Or can we reset? Yeah. We'll just stick with my avatar right now and show how you can do some other changes. So as you can see, I gave him a bit of a gut because I got the gut. It's probably more out to here-ish, but I am actually that muscular. I just got the gut. And obviously you could change your body type, make yourself nice and skinny, really sturdy, portly. That's probably a little bit, yeah, that's closer, but I liked it down here. Or you can make yourself really skinny and muscular. Yeah, that's just, you look like a freak of nature. Maybe make yourself really tall, short, you know, you got your standard stuff. Wow. Make myself super lean, muscular, short guy. You have like a short man complex, I'm sure. Then skull size, make it really small. You know what, let's go crazy with this one. So, yeah. Yeah, right there. Body features. Hands. Let's give him giant hands. Huge ass. Sure. Yeah, there we go. You have your standard hairstyle selections. There's not all that many right now. Facial hair. Again, not nearly as many as some RPGs have. Hair color. All the standard shit, right? You then move on to clothing. Now, the interesting thing about clothing is you can change this at any time during the game with anything you've unlocked. For instance, I've unlocked a lot of the different class-specific armors from completing challenges. So, like, if I want to wear the Alchemist armor, I could do that. The Kinetic, Necromancer, which is what I was wearing, and so forth. And then, an interesting slider, you can actually change how you run. So, do you want to have, like, a light little fancy feet run, or this big heavy dude? Additionally, you can also change your stance. I personally don't like the aggressive stance because he's like leaning forward and I don't know, it just looks weird to me. And then the casual stance just is like, whatever. So, yeah. I usually just go with the normal one. And then, obviously, you have the voice. I just rock the normal. I'm sure my voice is a little bit higher, but I hate listening to my own voice. And then you can change your name. I'm not sure how this is going to work because your name winds up getting saved, whether or not you're going to be able to change that again later or not. I don't know. Right now you can. I am not going to change my appearance. I'm just going to reset and head on back. Set back. Yes. And exit. I want to keep the stance I currently have. So that's how you can change your appearance, and that's also how your character winds up looking at the start of the game. Now in here, I can show some of the other classes that aren't currently available, or the ones that you'd be able to unlock through the Atlas Ascension. For instance, if I pull this up, they did enable Alchemist and Knight for future playthrough. but there are a considerable number of classes in this game. So for instance, you have the Sorcerer, which is probably one of my favorites. The Kinetic I really like as well. They control gravity. The Sorcerer controls like curses and debuffs and stacking up like a dot on the enemy and then doing bonus damage as long as the dot's on there. I found that a lot of fun. The Kinetic controls gravity, pulls up giant boulders and chucks them at enemies' faces. The Slayer's like your assassin type, very combo oriented. You can change between the different combo sets and that type of thing to pull off different maneuvers, whether you want AoE, a single target burst damage, so on. You can also transform into like this weird darkness form and just shoot out your kunai at crazy long ranges and just like rake the enemy, doing a massive amount of damage. But it's got a pretty decently long cooldown, and it doesn't last very long. Like, you can attack 3, maybe 4 times with it, but sometimes that's enough. Then you have your Knight. I haven't actually played the Knight because it's a more tanky class. I don't really like tanky classes, and I've passed on that. Then we have the Gunner, which is what I currently am. I personally find it to be the most fun, but, you know, that's my opinion. Then we have the Cryomancer. I was talking about them before. The Cryomancer controls ice, obviously, and doesn't really combo all that much. It's mostly just mana management, and I find that kind of boring. He does have a lot of pseudo debuffs where, while he doesn't necessarily make the enemy slower, or obviously makes them slower, he doesn't make them weaker. He does slow them and can stun and help control the flow of battle in that way. He's actually got a lot of position changing requirements. For instance, one of the abilities causes you to leave like an ice trail on the ground as you slide backwards while you can continually shoot enemies. And any enemies on the ice trail get slowed. Another one, you drop like a clone of yourself. Enemies will attack that instead of you while you jump backwards to safety. The clone's kind of got a taunt on it, and then after a certain amount of time it'll explode, doing damage and stunning depending on how long enemies are in there. So kind of interesting that way. Paladin, another taunty, AoE-based, combo-ish class. I haven't played it, so sorry, can't tell you all that much. The Lightbinder has a lot of buffs to teammates, such as shields and damage increases, and cast light damage on enemies. The interesting thing about this game, there are no party heals. Well, there are, but they're very few and have ridiculous timers on them. The Lightbinder can also res teammates mid-fight. So there's obviously going to be places for them on raid teams, but they don't actually heal, they protect. Everybody is responsible for their own individual healing. That, if you look down on my cast bar at the bottom, that one that says H, has like a little plus sign above it, well, that's my health. I can cast that to heal. You can buy more of them. They restore like a portion of your health. I'm not sure if it's percentage based. That would kind of make sense. You then have the Berserker. Berserker is actually a lot of fun. It's combo based. Once again, you get to decide while pulling off the combos, do you want to do AoE, or do you want to do single target, or do you want to do abilities that build up your rage more, so that way when you use your single target or AoE later, they do bonus damage. It's pretty interesting, and you can go into like a Berserker mode and just go apeshit. We then have the Alchemist. The Alchemist is weird. They put on like debuffs and dots on enemies, can buff teammates, and summon like oozes, and they can also transform into like a melee monster of death. Kind of interesting. The Monk is similar to the Gunner in my opinion, because the Gunner has 3 stances. You have your machine gun, your pulse rifle, and your mortar. The Monk has 3 stances, but they're all melee based. He has his wind stance, which he can usually attack further at range and do damage that way. Like he can dash towards an enemy or knock them up and away from you and do some cool combos like that. You have your fire stance, which allows you to do AoE damage, and you have your stone stance, which does a lot more single target damage. So the trick is to know how to switch between the different stances and so forth. And it's a lot of fun, actually. It's just not quite my style because I prefer ranged. Now, the Necromancer is ranged. Not exactly my cup of tea. It's a lot of timing-based things because you have to like cast certain abilities in order to summon creatures to work for you, and it's still combo-based, so you have to like attack once with your scythe, and then that'll allow you to use one type of ability, or you can cast the scythe twice, which will allow you to use a different type. It's just kind of complicated. I don't like it, and the scythe doesn't attack very fast, so there's a lot of downtime in between your major casts. I personally just didn't like the feel. Then you have your ranger. I wouldn't necessarily say the ranger's combo-based, but you have to like switch between different arrows to decide which one will fit the current need. For instance, you can have one that will penetrate through all enemies in a straight line, doing decent damage. You can shoot one that will explode on contact, doing AoE damage, but a little bit less. Higher single target damage arrows, and so on and so forth. It's pretty interesting. So, yeah, overall, the classes each feel very different. I haven't played the Paladin and Knight, and in all honesty, they seem the most similar. For instance, if I pull this up, and the Knight, 3 attacks with different combos coming off each. The Paladin, 4 attacks with different combos coming off each. I don't know, they just look very similar to me, and I find that kind of boring. I haven't played it personally, so again, one of them might be better at single target, another one better at AoE targeting and taunting. Not sure. But if you get to this point, I can't remember how much prestige you needed to get here. You can actually try out all these classes, and that's pretty badass. So for instance, let's show a little bit of what the Slayer can do. Now, this is like a tutorial teaching you about the class, so it's not exactly the best. So, the Slayer is like a pseudo melee class. I say pseudo because a lot of his attacks are melee, but some of them have range. It's kind of interesting. So as you go through the tutorial, it keeps unlocking more and more abilities for you. So in the next one here, I'll be able to use shurikens. So like with the shuriken, you can move while charging, and then you stop to throw them. So you can actually like kite enemies and strafe around them, move out of attacks while still attacking. Overall, I find it pretty fluid. Feels good to do. And we'll just kill the enemy real quick like that. So here we get to see some of the combo. So if I attack once and then use my right click afterwards, I do an AoE. But if I were to just right click now, I would throw my shuriken. So you have to combo it up, which is definitely a more interesting way of using abilities than a lot of games are. Some games have had combos or casting order, like your World of Warcraft, for instance. You'd have like the best ability to use at any given time, depending on what you had used previously, but this one actually feels like it's more interactive, let's say. For instance, in WoW, there are a lot of mods that actually just straight out told people, like, cast this next, it's the best thing to use. Not so much in this one. I do like this, though. You got like a shadow step. It does a decent amount of damage and teleports you to an enemy. And then, is it this one? Oh yeah, this one's fun. And no, I think it's just, I gotta tap it. Yeah, if I just tap it, I get pulled. If you press and hold, you pull the enemy to you. But if you tap it, you pull yourself to the enemy. It's kind of cool. Alright, so I'll hit C. That's what it's telling me to do. And I guess it like drops a clone. That's also doing damage? That's kind of badass. And just kill these enemies because they're boring and they don't attack you. I mostly want to show the more badassery one. And this is not it. So 4. Oh no, this is it. Yeah, see how you like rake across the enemies? I find that so fucking badass. And now it's over. This attack will hit multiple enemies. I wasn't close enough. I'm not sure if it does more damage or less than that one. It looks like less. But again, it will hit enemies in front and back of you. So that's good. So like right here, I'm going to activate this to try to destroy him really quick. Alright, and now that these guys moved in close, I'll just do my swipe to take them all out. And there we go. This time, let's set a trap, and then we'll activate this. And just kind of fuck these guys up real fast. Yeah. Alright, so now I think it's the big guy. Yeah, this guy's actually going to try to attack me. Yeah, there he goes with his laser of death. But he's focused on my little bait, which is pretty cool. Because that allows me to just do a lot of damage while he wasn't trying to attack me. Basically, if I don't take damage, I'll get a little bit better of a reward. This is actually how you unlock the different costumes. Whether or not that's going to change for the game when it finally releases, I don't know. But teleport behind him, do a couple attack sets. I think I can get in 3 before I want to move, because I don't want to get hit by the laser. One of the cool things too is in like the dungeons, once you beat them the first time, they unlock challenges similar to don't take any damage. Obviously, they're not going to give you that one in a dungeon because that would be a little bit excessive. But they're definitely, some of them are tricky. Like you'll have to fight enemies in certain spots, or kill 5 enemies or 4 enemies all at once 5 times, stuff like that. And yeah. Sadly, I don't get to actually play as any of these classes unless I unlock them through my Atlas. And it's kind of sad. As you can see, I can't unlock anything here, so I don't even know why that's highlighted per se. Let's go check out over by the Berserker real quick before I head out. No, that's the Knight. Here's the Berserker. So I think the Berserker will be closer. Oh, 650. So it might actually still be cheaper coming from this way to head over. As one final note, while I have no idea what the hell this means, the Sun Ether slot can be improved using the Sun Ether cores. Not sure what that means, but this is also how you unlock your God form. So one of the main selling points in the game is that you're an immortal. You die at the start of the game, and you come back to life, and you're working your way up to becoming a god. It actually kind of reminds me of a book from Brandon Sanderson, but that's kind of irrelevant. So this is how you unlock your god form, and then once you get your god form, I'm pretty sure it has another Atlas of Ascension to go through for your god form. And all in all, it's going to take quite a while to complete everything in this game when it's finally released. One last quick aside, if you get the Founders Pack or otherwise, you can buy them. There are mounts in the game. Wow, that's really loud. At least to me it is. So I'm going to hop on off that real quick. Click on the mount button to show the mounts that are currently available. You have like this Rhino guy. He has more health but moves a little bit slower. Health because you can actually get attacked while on mounts. You regen health while mounted. This one actually has a shit ton of health. Huh, interesting. This one does too, actually. Fuck this rhino. That rhino's stupid. This is the one you get from pre-ordering the... I don't want to say pre-ordering. It's what you get for the Founders Pack. And then you have this Moa bird. Kind of interesting. And then you're going to be able to get different skins. You have to get the permits to ride. And I'm pretty sure I showed it before. But as you unlock costumes and you want to change your appearance without going to the stylist and change like your face and body type, all you have to do is click the style room and you'll be able to change your gear into whatever you want. I find this is important because some classes look better in different shit. For instance, when I play as the Alchemist, I like to wear the Alchemist gear because he's got all these hoses and shit hanging off of him. It just kind of matches. So anyways, guys, until next time, good luck, have fun, peace.